I'm going to show you a German dish. It's German, it's called Strudels. And the first thing to make these strudels is we have to make the batter. We're going to take flour and water. So I take 1 scoop, and 2 scoops, 3 scoops, and 4 scoops. And I'm going to mix this with water until it's saturated all the way through. This is the flour and here's the water. I'm using warm water. It kind of makes it a little bit better. Anyway, I'm mixing that water in, and all we have now is flour and water. And it takes quite a bit of water to saturate 4 cups of flour. So I stir that around a little bit and just get it, not enough water. Okay, more water. And then I press around, and I'm just going to saturate this flour until it's ready. Now I've reached the consistency I want here. It's kind of sticky, but I got to mix it up real well. One of the secrets in strudels is to get that really, really smooth. I'm going to add Crisco shortening here to blend this in. All I've got is flour and water. I beat this around quite a bit. I'm going to take some with my other hand, and I'm going to mix it in with the flour and water. And that'll make it smoother and silkier. See how I mix that in there, and it's getting smoother and smoother. And now the only ingredients I have in here are flour, water, and Crisco shortening. This is going to be, I've been doing this for about 10 minutes now. It's starting to get nice and smooth. Okay, I'm going to put some flour on the table. And you always have an extra flour on hand, because it always requires extra flour once you're taking the stuff out of there and putting it on here. But I'm going to grease my hands. Just spread the grease on my hands so I can take this out of the pan. This stuff. Okay. I'm going to get around it. I'm going to bring this out of here. I'm going to lay it on flour so it won't stick to me. I don't want it to stick to me. See how it makes my hand hurt? Anyway, ooh, that's so soft. Can you see how soft that is? But I'm going to start mixing it even more so that I can mix it with just my hands and it won't stick to my hands. And I'm going to do this for quite a while again. And all we got is flour and water and some Crisco shortening. I've been pounding this around quite a bit. And if it does start sticking to your hands, you can pop it in the flour one more time. Okay? And I think it's just about ready to go. So I'm going to kind of get it into a long tube here now. And I'm going to lay it on a cutting board. Now I'm going to take some of the flour and I'm going to put it on the cutting board so nothing sticks. You don't want too much flour, just a light layer. And I take this tube that I made here and I grab a knife. I come back and I slice it into 1. Let's see, there's 1. Here's 2. It's starting to stick a little bit, so I need a little bit more flour there. And I'll go with 4 different pieces like this. Okay, and I'm going to lay these 4 pieces into the flour. And there's my 4 pieces. And they're kind of sticky on the edge, so I put a little flour on them. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these, put a little bit of flour on this thing here, and I'm going to put that down and grab my rolling pin. And I'm going to grab and put some flour on the rolling pin so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to make these in nice circles. Okay? I'm going to do that with all 4 of them. Note how I put flour on the table so they don't stick. I'm on my 4th one right here, and I'm going to roll that one out. And I just flip it over. Make it nice and not real round. But here are my 4. I lay that on the flour on the table so they don't stick to the table. Next thing I'm going to do is take my can of Crisco grease and I'm going to lay a layer of the shortening over the top of each one of those. I'm going to take the vegetable shortening and I'm going to lay a thin layer on the top of these. Make sure that it gets over the entire pre-strudel here. It's a pre-strudel. And I'm going to put that around and mush it in there, and just like that, all the way around. Get these outside corners, because that will make the dough stretch when we're ready to stretch it. Make sure that you get the shortening to the very outside edges, because we're going to be stretching these here in about 20 minutes. That's one thing I got to point out. Once they've been greased, I'll slide this somewhere else into the flour. Now here's all 4 of them right here. Once they've been greased, you need to leave them set 20 minutes to let them saturate. But while we wait, we have to get prepared for the strudels to be put into the pot. So let's do that next. Now here's the pot we're going to put them in, the pan. And we're going to put a little bit of water in the pan, just cold water. And this is very important. The water, we're going to cut potatoes and put it in the water. The potatoes, you want the water to be just underneath the potatoes. The strudels bake on top of the water and it steams them. So you do not want a lot of water. So I'm just going to test here. And I'm going to take this water and I'm going to cut up potatoes into little pieces and lay them in the bottom of this pan. Intermission, intermission. Kitty. Kitty's helping with strudels. Hi, Kitty. Little toes, little toes. Alright, that's good. Whoa! Now these are the ingredients we have to add to this pan. We've got the water underneath the potato, and we're going to add onion, salt, and pepper. Polly, quit tickling her.
How cute are you?
And we have these things that we're going to add, and I'm just going to show you that in just a little bit. I'm preparing the onion to put into the strudels. Oops. And I just slice off the outer edge, because we don't want that outer edge. I don't know why, but... And I cut that off, and as I cut the onion, I make pretty good sized chunks because not many people like onion, including me. And they can pull them, they won't even be on the strudels. It just gives the strudels flavor. That's all the onion does, is give those strudels flavor.
What do they do?
Gives the strudels flavor. Okay, I'm adding the onion to the strudel base, the foundation. I'm putting in big clumps in here. This adds flavor to the strudel. Turn on your stove to a low temperature. Actually, you can turn it up to about 6. When we cook the strudels, we cook them at a very low temperature, like 4, from 3 to 4. So a low temperature, so it just steams the strudels. And then put salt in there also. So we have potatoes, we have onion, we have salt and pepper, and the strudels are going to lay on top. They're going to lay on top of the potatoes. I'm taking the flour and leaving a thin base of flour here, and I'm going to stretch each one of these strudels. So I'm going to get underneath this strudel, get my hands under it, and kind of stretch out the middle. Okay? And I'm going to lay it down kind of on the flour, and I'm going to stretch the edges of this. See how nice that stretches? And it doesn't make holes. When you have a bad batch, you'll get holes in there, but you can actually see the table underneath the strudel. You see the flour underneath there? And I'm stretching all the way. You got to stretch those. Stretch, 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 stretch. You want to get the whole base. You don't want it, you want it very thin on the outside edges. And if you get a little bit of holes and stuff like that, that's no big deal. And here's a big thick layer. See how that stretches so you can see through it? Take time stretching these. You'll be glad you did. And you pull and pull and pull, but not pull so hard that you actually put a hole in it. But if you do, that's all right. The outside edges, you really want to get them thin. So take a little bit of time. And now they're stretched. I'm going to start it right here, and I'm just going to kind of fluff them up and roll them. But not tight. You don't roll them tight. You kind of wee, light-hearted. Not tight, and you'd have bends in them and stuff like that. And this is what's going to go in that fabulous water over there. So we go all the end, and notice they're not tight. Very loosely put together. And once one of them is done, like my mother, Grandma Pauline does, she flips it over to the side, puts a little curlicue in it, and that's ready to cut and put into the water. So now I'm going to go to the next one. Watch your kitty cat, because kitty cats love strudels. Don't eat that strudel. No kitty cat. No kitty cat. No, no. The final step is to slice these into 2 inches, and I'm just going to set them on the pan. I've got all 4 of them here if you want to look here. Rolled them up into my steaks and nice little snakes like Grandma Pauline used to do. By the way, this is an old German recipe, and they ate all this all the time, mainly because it was the Depression, and all you're paying for here is flour, basically, and an onion. So it's a very inexpensive meal. I'm on my last ring. Throw those on there. And now they're ready to put in the pan. Let's go put them in the pan. Come on over here. Alright, here's the pan right here. And you noticed I put it on 6 to get it warmed up. I'm going to lower the temperature to like 4. And we've got a nice steamy base here. And notice I lay them on top of the water. The strudel is actually laying on top of the potatoes. Okay. Lay those on top of the potatoes. I'm going to lay those strudels on top of the potatoes. We have them all layered in the pan, and I'm going to put the cover on the pan, and in a little while we're going to hear them simmering. I'm going to put it at 4. If it starts boiling, you need to reduce the heat. You don't want it to boil, but you want it to have steam in there. And that, if you do have it boil at a very low boil, one of the secrets, never take that lid off once they start. We're going to put them in for 45 minutes on low heat, maybe 50 depending, but you'll see the steam coming out and you'll smell it and you'll know when they're done. By the way, I'd like to thank Nikki G for being my camera person. With strudels, you don't just make them and eat them by themselves. What we picked tonight for strudels is we got some $1.95 Swiss steak. What I'm going to do with the Swiss steak is I'm going to cut the Swiss steak into strips. I'm going to wet it, flour the Swiss steak, put it on the grill, and basically just marinate it with butter until it's done. Very excellent choice for strudels. You can use pork chops, whatever you like. The strudels, Polly. How do you do it? No, what do you dunk them in butter?
Oh,
Take
dunk them in butter.
You cut them in little pieces, dunk them in butter or margarine, and eat them. How do they taste?
Really good.
How do you like them?
They're really good.
How do you like them back there, Lori? That's all it takes.